does it feel to be 50? Little white streaks in your hair. How does it feel to be 50? Always looking for the nearest chair. How does it feel? How's it feel to be 50?
Happy birthday, Tim Wildman, 50th birthday today. That's the reason for the black buttons that everybody at AFA is wearing, why we are all dressed in black. 888-589-8840, number to call if you want to join the program. Let's grab a call from Bob in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Bob, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Well, I really appreciate everything you're telling us. You're informing us of what's going on with these irresponsible and mostly immoral people that are in office. But what can the normal person like me do besides call our representatives and then try to get them off their duffs to do something?
Well, that's what we can do. That's what we can do. You know, number one, I think, Bob, is number one, we need to stay informed. Now, we can get agitated. You can get kind of aggravated when you start understanding what's going on in D.C., but we have to have that information because with that truth comes the energy that's necessary to keep us engaged so we don't fall asleep, we don't become complacent, we don't say, hey, look, there's no point in trying to stay informed. There's nothing we can do. We need to stay informed. That's why you need to keep listening to conservative media outlets. And then number two is we need to make our voices heard when the time is right. Now, that's why I encourage you to go sign up for our AFA Action Alerts if you haven't, because we need to have a place for that energy to be released, for that energy to go. You get agitated, you want to do something about it, you don't know what to do. You know, you mentioned calling our congressman. That is a great way to go. Just call them. Let them know your view on a particular issue that they are dealing with. You don't have to make it a long message. But trust me, somebody's got to answer that phone. Somebody's got to listen to that voice message. So the more our congressmen hear from us about what motivates us, what concerns us, the more good it does because they have to pay attention to that. I mean, just for their own political survival. And I'm sure you've got a congressman that's values-driven and man of integrity and all that, but not every congressman is like that. And what they need to understand is what their constituents feel about an issue, how strongly they feel, because then they will do the right thing, not in order to do the right thing, but because they want to keep you voting for them. They want to get reelected. You know, haven't been around politicians a lot in my career, but the ones I've been around, the thing I discovered very quickly is after they get elected and are in office, the most important thing to the vast majority of them is getting reelected. Now, you're going to have a handful. When I was working with the Idaho legislature, there were a handful of senators, a handful of representatives. They were motivated by principle. They were motivated by values. They were going to vote the right way. It didn't matter what happened as a result. But the great majority of them, I'd say probably 70, 80% of them, number one issue for them was reelection. So what we want to do is we want to let them know that if they want to get reelected, they need to come down on this side of this particular issue. So I think informing them and letting them know where we stand, I think is critically important. Taking action on these AFA Action Alerts is a very tangible way to sort of let your voice be heard. So those out there that haven't signed up, go to afa.net, sign up on the upper right-hand corner. You see a button there for the Action Alerts. You can get these right in your inbox, and you can take action the day you get it. All right, Bob, well, listen, I thank you for that. I appreciate that. Let's go to Regina in Hickory, North Carolina. Regina, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. Tell Tim I said happy birthday.
All right, I will. I'll pass it on.
Earlier you were talking about them releasing the illegal immigrants and they're all criminals, and you said they weren't the brightest bulbs in the pack. And I used to think that way too. I thought that, but I really believe their focus is so narrow because of their agenda. I don't think any of them are dummies. I think they think that the American people are so stupid we won't pay attention to what they're doing.
Well, you know, and you may be right about that, Regina. I would never want to overestimate the intelligence of anybody in Washington, D.C., but I do think that Janet Napolitano and the administration, I think they goofed on this immigration issue. I really do, because they were so intent on demonizing Republicans. They were so intent on scaring us out of our minds. They were so intent in stirring up in us this agitation over how many essential services were being shut down by this sequester, that they didn't even think what this was going to do to their whole agenda about comprehensive immigration reform. And I think that's pretty well been kneecapped now. I mean, I don't see how they have any credibility, how they can come back now, because the sequester is in effect. It is now in effect as of midnight last night. All of these apocalyptic cuts, they've been made. So all of the damage now is being done. It has been done. Too late to call it back, and all that. So, I think overall, you might be right. I think, President Obama's pretty shrewd. He's a pretty shrewd character, and he's been trying. He knows how to play this thing, and he's been trying to play it. But I think even President Obama, I think he got caught up short on this because his scare tactic didn't work. And thank you for the call, Regina. I appreciate it. We played the soundbite last night or yesterday, where the night before he'd been at this business dinner, and he said, look, most people aren't even going to feel the sequester, because he knew at that point it was going through. So he says at this business dinner, look, the reality is you're probably not even going to notice. In fact, he said the same thing today. Jeff, if we can grab that audio bite. He met this morning, brief meeting with John Boehner and some of the other Republican leaders to try to do something with the sequester. It was a short meeting. I think he met with them for 7 minutes yesterday. And John Boehner says, look, we're done with tax increases. I wish he'd stop using the word revenue, because it's a tax increase, tax hikes. He said, we're done with that. We gave you $620 billion in tax increases, $620 billion. And John Boehner saying, that's it. No more. We're not doing any more tax increases. If you want to deal with this, we're going to have to do it by trimming federal spending. And so that's why the thing broke apart, is because President Obama is absolutely stubborn. He's inflexible. He's intransigent. He has got to raise taxes. If a deal does not involve an increase in taxes, he's not interested. He's the one that's inflexible. He's the one that's rigid. He's the one that's stubborn. And the Republicans at the time justified it by saying, well, okay, now that we've given him his $618 billion tax hike, now we've got that issue off the table. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We gave him these tax increases he said he wanted. Now we can talk about spending. And here we are. All President Obama can talk about is tax hikes, tax hikes, tax hikes. I mean, that's why you got to do the right thing every single time, because, what good did it do to raise taxes $620 billion? It didn't do any good at all. All that did was to hurt the producers. So here is Barack Obama this morning at a press conference after this emergency meeting to try to solve the sequester, basically saying the same thing that he said to that we've been telling you for months. This is a nothing burger. You're not even going to feel it. Let's listen.
We will get through this. This is not going to be a apocalypse, I think, as some people have said. It's
like
just dumb, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt individual people, and it's going to hurt the economy overall. But if Congress comes to its senses a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now, then there's a lot of open running room there for us to grow our economy much more quickly.
So Barack Obama saying this morning, after the sky is falling, he's the one that's talking about teachers getting laid off and first responders getting laid off and kids getting kicked out of Head Start programs, and borders going to be porous, and the military is going to be gutted. We're not going to have any ships. I mean, it was just one doomsday scenario after another. And now what's he saying? Now that the sequester has gone into effect and the sun is still shining, the birds are chirping, people are working out in their yards, they're going to work, nobody's seen any difference whatsoever. Now all of a sudden he's saying, well, it's not going to be the apocalypse that some people said it was going to be. People like me is what he should have added. Now, he does make an admission. Play the next audio bite, Jeff. He does make an admission in this same soundbite. Realize that President Obama has been in office for 4 years. When you listen to this soundbite, remember that he's been in office for 4 years. And he campaigned on a promise of turning around this economy. This economy's in the tank because of George W. Bush and his policies. Give the economy to me. He said that you give the economy to me, and I will turn this thing around. And you've got Democrats a year or two into this thing, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we own the economy. It's ours. It's our baby. When you hear that, listen, this is an incredible indictment coming from President Obama's own lips about his own economic policies. Let's listen.
This is not a situation where I'm only asking for concessions from Republicans and asking nothing from Democrats. I'm saying that everybody's going to have to do something. And the one key to this whole thing is trying to make sure we keep in mind who we're here for. We are not here for ourselves. We're not here for our parties. We're not here to advance our electoral prospects. We're here for American families who have been getting battered pretty good over the last 4 years. You know, this is not a win for anybody. This is a loss for the American people.
So that's Barack Obama. Families have been battered for the last 4 years. Who has been president for the last 4 years? Whose economic policies have been implemented for the last 4 years? Whose tax and spend policies have been implemented for the last 4 years? It's Barack Obama. And he's saying, American families have been battered for the last 4 years while I have been in charge. Let's grab the Nancy Pelosi clip number 2. More scaremongering. This is Nancy Pelosi yesterday trying to scare us into submission on the sequester.
Tomorrow is fraught with meaning on the calendar. First of all is March 1st. It is a day that the indiscriminate across-the-board spending cuts that will cause unemployment, instability, and uncertainty in our economy takes place. It is a day when soon people will be getting a pink slip. We might as well get a pink slip from the office of the Speaker and the Republican Conference to 750,000 American workers laid off because of sequester implementation. Unless the House GOP stops the mindless across-the-board spending cuts, you too could lose your job.
In America, you have a right to be stupid.
So that's Nancy Pelosi saying you're going to have pink slips, you're going to get laid off tomorrow. These cuts are going into effect tomorrow. You're going to lose your job tomorrow. It's going to be Armageddon. It's going to be absolutely terrible. We're going to have unemployment through the roof. We're going to have instability, and it's all the Republicans' fault. And do not forget this whole sequestration thing was Barack Obama's idea. It is his baby. It's his idea. He dreamed it up. He presented it to the Republicans. He campaigned for it. He pushed it through, and he signed it when it was set in front of him. The sequestration is Obama's idea. Bob Woodward around to remind us of that. Focal point, AFR Talk.